Hi, students. Today's lesson is going to be on order of operations, and your mission is to use the correct order of operations to find the value of expressions. So let's get started. So I want you to take a second and read that sentence above. And can you identify what's wrong with it? A hamburger want I dinner for? That make any sense? No, it doesn't. That's just because the words are in the wrong order. Probably should be I want hamburger. I want a hamburger for dinner. So like ordering does matter even when you're creating a sentence. The ordering of sentences do matter. The same thing happens in math where like the correct order gives you a different orders give you a different result. So when you're doing the order of operations, it does matter the order in which you simplify these expressions. So let's look at the order. So step 1 is grouping symbols. So grouping symbols are parentheses. Let me use yellow, it'll be easier to see. Parentheses, brackets, fraction bar. What I mean by the fraction bar is when you have something like 3 plus 1 over 2 plus 0, like something like that. It's grouping the numerators together and is grouping the denominators together. Okay, step 2 is exponents. We just did some days on exponents. So whatever you see that exponent, that comes next. And then step 3 is multiply or divide left to right. It is not always multiply before division. This is a common error that occurs when you're doing order of operations. It is multiply or divide left to right. So if you have something like 12 divided by 4 times 2, you're supposed to do the division first because it occurs left to right, not the multiplying. Division first in this problem. So when you're down to like multiplying, dividing, adding, or subtracting, do the multiplying and the division left to right first. And the last step would be add or subtract left to right. Same thing like multiply or divide. It's not addition before subtraction. It's addition or subtraction, whichever comes first, left to right. Now let's do some example problems. One way you can write it is, I like to write this as GEMDAS like this. You can write this in the corner of your paper to remind you. Grouping symbol, this is your checklist for every problem. Is there grouping symbols? Is there exponents? Multiplying, dividing, left to right. Addition, subtraction, left to right. So this is something you're going to see me writing in these notes for every single slide. Excuse me, sorry. All right, so again, make sure you to underline each step. You're not doing this mentally. What I mean by that is you're not doing multiple steps in your head mentally. You're going to do one by one by one. So many errors occur because of too much mental math. So number 1, like I said, I'm going to write it somewhere. I'm going to write it in green, lime green. Gem, not like that. Oops. Gem, dust. Okay. Now let's look at this. So when you're looking at this, what do you do first? There are 2 things. Do we have grouping symbols? Remember, those are parentheses, brackets, or fraction bar. We do have parentheses. They're right there. So that's what we do first. What's inside of the parentheses? So 16 minus 9 is 7. So you're just going to rewrite it as 2 times 7. And you can type this. Okay, you can type this. 2 times 7. And now you're underlining this to get 14. Okay, let's do a little harder one for number 2. Do we have grouping symbols? Nope, there's no parentheses, there's no fraction bars, there's no brackets. So that one's crossed off. Do we have exponents? I see that little exponent right there, so that's what we do first here. So I'm going to underline that. So 2 to the 3rd power is what? Remember, that's 2 times 2 times 2. So that's going to be 8. And I'm going to rewrite the rest of it. Do not take shortcuts with this. And now we're looking, so we're done with exponents. This is done, this is done. Multiplying and dividing left to right. So let's just go from left to right. Subtraction, nope, that's not what we do now. Oh, I see division. So that's our next step, dividing. So I'm going to underline that. So 15 minus, what's 18 divided by 9? That is 2 plus 8. So let's look at it. We have subtract left to right, subtraction and addition. So we're done with multiplying and dividing. Now we're down to addition and subtraction left to right. So read like you're reading a book, like you're do it left to right. So 15 minus 2 is first. So we're going to underline that. If 15 minus 2 is 13 plus 8. And our last step is just doing the addition, which is going to be 21. Okay. Number 3. So again, I'm going to write it over here, GEMDAS. And you guys can have this on your paper and do the checklist every single time. So let's look at it. Grouping symbol. Do we have any? There's no parentheses, there's no brackets, but we do have a fraction bar, and that just means that we simplify the numerator and we simplify the denominator. So you can underline this if you like, and underline this if you'd like. So we're going to do them simultaneously. So that would be 6 plus 27 is 33 over 9 minus 6, which is 3. So we're done with the grouping symbols. There's no exponents, multiplying and dividing. That's the step that we're at. There is a division here. Fraction bar here, we've done the grouping part of the fraction bar. Now we just have to divide because that's what a fraction is. So 33 divided by 3 is 11. Okay. I'm going to erase these little checks over here so you can write new ones. All right. So let's do this one. Grouping symbols, any parentheses, brackets, or fraction bars. I see some parentheses, so I'm going to underline that. So 9 minus 6 is 3. And you can leave them in the parentheses like this, or you don't have to. But when you have a number next to a parentheses, that actually means multiplication. So if you're not sure of that, that means multiplication. So you could change it and write multiplication over here because we're done with the parentheses, and I'm just going to copy the rest of it. Plus 4, I'm going backwards. Okay, so we're done with the grouping symbols. There's no more left. Do we have any exponents here? I see none, so that's gone. Multiplying and dividing left to right. So let's start from the left and go. 20 divided by 4. Sometimes reading it out loud in your head or out loud in general helps. 20 divided by 4. I see it. I just said the word divided, so that's what you're doing next. 20 divided by 4 is 5 plus 10 is 3. See if there's any more multiplying or dividing. So 5 plus 10 times 3. There are just set times, so that's multiplying. So that's going to be 30, and you're just adding 5 to that in front. And the last step is 35. So just taking it step by step, when you do too much, you're going to mix. You're going to go all over the place with incorrect steps. So like just slow down and go it step by step by step. Let's do a few more. So let's write that our order here, GEMDAS. Grouping symbols. Do we see any grouping symbols? Symbols. Parentheses, brackets, fraction bars. I see none, so we're done with that. Do we see any exponents? Nope, I see none, so we're done with that. Multiplying and dividing, left to right. So let's read it left to right. 24 divided by 2, that means that's our first step. So 24 divided by 2, or 2 times what is 24? It's 12. And I'm just going to copy the rest of it down. We're still on multiplying and dividing. Let's check if there's more. We see a plus sign here and a minus sign here, so this is done. Addition, subtraction, left to right. So 12 plus 4, so this is going to be our first step. 16 minus 7. And that's all that's left, and that's going to give us a 9. Let's do another one. I'm going to write it this time down here so we have a different checklist. That's a D. Really bad D, but that's a D. All right, so let's start off with this. Grouping symbols. Oh, I see parentheses, so that means you're simplifying inside of it. So what I noticed in this one, there's a couple of things happening in here. I see an exponent and a subtraction sign. So which one comes first between the two? The exponent is first. So I'm going to, in my parentheses, 8 to the second power is, remember, 8 times 8. So that is 64 minus 6, and I'm going to copy the rest of it. That doesn't mean you don't copy the rest of it. You still copy it. We're still in the grouping symbols because we had two things going on in the grouping symbols, so we got to deal with that first. So we still have this. 64 minus 6 is 58. So I'm going to take it out of the parentheses and put a multiply because that is what's happening here. There's no operation. That means multiplying. So I'm just going to write a multiplying plus 4 backwards. So we are done with grouping symbols. Our exponent occurred in there. Now we're down to multiplying and dividing. So left to right, we have addition and then a multiplying. So that means we got to do 2 times 58 first. And you can, if you need to use a calculator, but this is a math that you can do if you need to, times 2 or double 58, and that gives you 116. So 116 plus 4. And this is our last step, is 120. All right. And now we're just down to your you try problems. You have these 4 problems to do. I think it's easier if you do it in your notebook and insert it. But if you're a typer, you're welcome to type it. But I think doing A and then actually doing the work in your notebook and underlining it is a little bit easier. Okay. Thanks for joining me. Bye.